facility into a larger space that can accommodate a larger number of passengers and a larger number of concessionaires. There is the expansion of the check-in area, which is just about in front of the terminal where you have that glass wall as you drive into the airport. That area will be, that glass wall will be moved out towards the south, and the check-in area expanded to allow for more circulation space for passengers. And finally, the expansion of the terminal building itself towards the west. So currently, our gates are along the western end of the terminal and then around the east side. So additional gates will be added towards the west to allow for the parking of additional aircraft on the stand, and then of course additional gates will be accommodated in this expanded facility. There are some additional works involved in this project, mainly related to the land side. So parking, we know that's one of the challenges at the airport now, especially during the peak period, and the project will also address additional parking. At the end of this project, we say medium term, we're thinking at least up to 2025 that the airport will have the adequate capacity to address the demand at that time, or up to that time. And finally, our master plan lays out what we call a land use plan, but essentially what it was depicted in this photo is what the airport will eventually look like up to the long term, which is, we call it up to 2035. But that's the extension of the runway, which we described earlier. The extension of the terminal building shown in green in these areas. The expansion of the parking facilities in front of the airport. The expansion of the bus pickup area and other facilities that will allow for better use of the facility and for the airport to accommodate the increase in traffic. One of the other items that will be addressed in this project with the parking is a relocation of the service station that is within that area. And that basically describes our current plans as it relates to the future development of the airport. If there are any questions, of course, beyond this presentation, we can follow that up later. I now invite Mr. Peter Hall, who heads our operations division, to describe, to continue the presentation.
Good morning. Everyone. His Worship Mayor, distinguished members of the council, let's pick up on this presentation. I'll be very brief. This chart you're looking at, this map here, is called the obstacle chart, and it describes basically in aviation what we call the obstacle limitation surface or surfaces. And basically the obstacle limitation surfaces are a series of surfaces that set limits, height limits for objects in and around the airport facility, center of the runway. And for our purposes, the objects that concerns us are those objects that are within 10 nautical miles of the aerodrome. That's up to 11.5 miles away from the aerodrome. So as far back as beyond Opel, thereabout, those limits is of concern to the airport. And of course, proper planning needs to be put in place whenever we see objects or when things are being built. And it is to that extent that we are making this presentation and have engaged the Municipal Corporation in St. James to assist the airport in ensuring that we comply with local regulation, because this is a regulatory matter that sets out in the Civil Aviation Regulation pursuant to the Civil Aviation Act in accordance with international standards. And so the airport is not endowed with regulatory powers. But the Municipal Corporation, we have to engage the services and the partnership of the Municipal Corporation, ensuring that these structures, or when persons are building structure, they comply with international and local regulatory standards for the purpose of safety and regularity of air travel. We are growing in terms of numbers, passengers, as well as aircraft movement, And so there is a need for us to ensure that safety is not compromised at any level. So a part of the memorandum of agreement, a draft memorandum of agreement that we seek to establish with the Municipal Corporation has in fact detailed the need for engagement of the council whenever the airport sees structures going up or being erected in close proximity to the airport or within this 10 nautical miles to ensure that it is indeed meet the standard or comply with the standards set out in the civil aviation regulations. And of course, objects going as far as 150 meters in anywhere within that 10 nautical miles is of concern to flight safety. And once these are going up, there has to be 60 days notice in writing to the Civil Aviation Authority. So of course calculations can be made and the appropriate permissions and any deviations are given by the authority. The other area I want to speak about briefly, and I know the authority has, Municipal Corporation, sorry, has interest in this as well, non-aeronautical lights within the zone and within this particular area as well. Specifically, it falls within the threshold of the airport runway within 4,500 meters in length. It is of concern to the airport because these lights can confuse air traffic, airplanes coming in. Lights in places of amusement, when persons are seeking permission to hold events in the nights with use of these lights, please, we want us to ensure, and it's also in the draft MOU, that they comply with local regulations so they do not cause problem for flight safety. Hotels, because we have had to go already and ask hotels to desist from using particular lights that project beyond the surface of the airport and their own facility because it will cause a problem for air traffic. It can, persons have gone and they are used, I think it's very funny that they're using laser lights at the end of the runway. Yes, and this is very dangerous. We have had to engage the police to ask to assist us already. And of course, it's a part of the draft MOU. Might not be within your remit, but we just ensure that it's actually there so we can engage and partner with you to have a little control in that area. 2 years ago, 18 months ago, we had an aircraft that actually had to cancel because a laser light hit the pilot in his eye and he could not carry on with that flight. The aircraft had to cancel. We wrote to the Ministry of National Security outlining how serious the issue was because this aircraft was actually an approach. It could have been worse, thank God. And we have had 2 cases of that within the last 24 months. And the last matter that we are seeking to engage and part of the MOU is the matter of unmanned aerial vehicles, drones that are in the areas. And of course, persons having amusement and events, drones, there's a civil aviation regulation pursuant to the act that is actually published in 2015 that special permission must be given for persons to use drones anywhere within that 10,000 I think it's feet radius of the airport. And so the Municipal Corporation want to ensure that we bring it to your attention that persons are mindful that drones are not permitted within certain quarters of the airport. Kites as well. Anything unmanned, unmanned aerial objects. Parasailing. Including boats, and it's not within your remit, but we are speaking to the Maritime Authority about that. Those boats, pleasure boats passing along the airport approach path, the aerodrome approach path, with those high masts, it must be of a certain height. Because if not, it interferes with the safety and regularity of flights. And I thank you very much. That sort of end by.
So, Your Worship, with this we come to the end of the presentation. We wanted to make it as brief as possible, understanding that we are constrained by time. Obviously, at MVJ, we are very happy to engage with you in any further discussions, sharing with you, of course, all these aeronautical charts, in particular this obstacle chart. I think it's of particular interest to the corporation, and here we are to help the development of St. James, of Montego Bay, and Jamaica in general. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you and your team. Is there any questions? Councillors, you have heard the presentation. Is there any question? And can you be so identified and recognized?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, let us
we can turn on the lights.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Wow.
I am heartened having listened to the presentations made in respect to the Sangster International Airport. And we in St. James, in Western Jamaica, I would say, if it is one commercial activity that we can say we outdo Kingston in, is the Sangster International Airport. Because people believe that Kingston is Jamaica. But I always take them back when we have those types of discussions with Kingstonians that let us look at the airport. If it wasn't for the Sangster Airport, because I think we bring into Jamaica, whether it is Jamaicans returning or visitors coming, we take in at least 80% of the persons coming into Jamaica. So I believe that Sangster International Airport is a pride of Montego Bay, St. James, and Western Jamaica. And in fact, I was just doing a check on a flight that I had to meet someone coming in recently, and I saw the report that you just presented, Doctor, that indicated the number of flights, etc., that you had and the number of persons that you engage in the airport, which was a bit surprising because when you go to the airport, you actually don't see them. But the numbers were astronomical, and it spoke volumes to the economic activity that you bring to St. James and Western Jamaica. And Jamaica, as I said, in relation to persons who come in and then go on to other parishes, whether it is St. Anne's or wherever, throughout Jamaica as visitors. And I am most pleased with the fact, and we must continue the sensitization of what was presented by Mr. Hall and the obstacle chart. Because many of us see planes coming into Montego Bay, or an airport for that matter, and we don't give much concern to the safety. It just looks like a regular activity. And I'm certain that what you spoke of probably, surprised some persons. But when you were speaking, I reflected on something that occurred while I was the mayor. And I was in some quarters, hauled and quartered, and some persons did not see what it is that we're trying to do in ensuring that the specification from the Civil Aviation Authority in a building permit pertaining to a major commercial activity too, that they had breached their building permit. And you know, as you're shaking your head, you know what I'm speaking about. For the little ones in the back, you have to do a little research. I don't want to get into the name business. But some persons would say, boy, you are being too hard on them. Today we have seen your presentation that speaks of the extension of the runway and the fact that if that project had continued, then the height issue, in fact, it would probably have stymied the extension of the runway. And we know that the extension of the runway is critical if we want to bring tourists into Jamaica from Russia on flights that don't have to stop over, because the larger aircraft is going to need a longer runway for takeoff and landing. And so, listening to the commentary today, I must believe that the approach, which some persons consider to be harsh, that the St. James Municipal Corporation stuck to its guns, and in spite of the cost of the demolition that had to take place, in spite of the cost of the demolition, that I believe that from that time, we are at this stage now that we would have contributed to your expansion plans by preserving the height consideration. And the other things to which you have spoken about, and I know that you have been in dialogue with us in respect to other issues that persons believe are simple issues. The washing of cars on the boundary of the property, the placement along your fence line of shacks and shops and so forth, which are safety issues. You never mention some because there are persons who reside in the adjoining communities who say, well, I'm taking a shortcut and I jump over the fence and I run across the runway from White House to Franklin. In fact, when I was a youngster, I did it. Without actually realizing the danger of it, and I didn't know that the runway was so wide until I attempted it. Because it doesn't look wide, you know, when you look at it, it doesn't. But trying to go across is very, very wide. So I've experienced that. But it is good that you have raised those issues. And as I said, there are others that you did not raise that we have to partner with you having regard to what is the obvious benefits of having the expansion of the airport and the continuation of your dominance and our significance on the map. However, dialoguing with us is one aspect of the issue. And I'm certain we'll do our part in ensuring the preservation of the things that are needed in order for there not to be the issues that may arise in relation to safety of aircraft. Because one aircraft goes down, you're talking about not only the loss of life, many lives, but you're talking about damage to our reputation of a country and the impact that it may have if we are downgraded in any way by its FAA, I believe it is. But the dialogue needs to go a little further, I would submit, because in respect to the adjustments that have to be made, you're going to be looking at 2 communities and another facility. I didn't hear the commentary as to the JDF camp, as to how they will then access the camp, the JDF facility, and the other, well, it's a part of your operation, the private jet center. Because I'm certain that that roadway won't be used. You may have to make some other adjustments that I didn't hear the commentary on. As well as the communities of White House and flankers. If there are any physical adjustments that are going to be required, the inconvenience and how to overcome them and to lessen them based on the adjustments that may have to be made in respect to the roadway. I thought that there was going to be consideration for the reopening of from the other side, but that does not seem to be contemplated, meaning the dead end, where we refer to as dead end. It does not seem as if that is contemplated at all. Not in this project. It is contemplated. Well, you can answer it. But I believe that we have to engage the White House community having regard to what their economic activities, which is reliance upon the sea, and them having access to the sea, that we don't create too much inconvenience for them. So as I said, I hope that the dialogue goes beyond there, it starts early, and so that we don't have too much dislocation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I will let
Can you stand up? Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Just to respond to Councillor Sinclair's comments, thank you for them. We appreciate the comments. As it relates to the project, just want to address two of the points raised. We didn't mention it because of time, but there is an entire machinery geared just towards stakeholder engagement, and we have identified the White House community and the flankers community as two of our major stakeholders. One, because Sandals, the White House community will be affected by the relocation or the realignment of Kent Avenue, and we want to ensure that throughout the life of the project, access is maintained to that community. So all the plans that we are making at this preliminary stage is to ensure that during the construction of the public road, that continued access is maintained, and that any commercial or personal traffic that has to traverse that road, pedestrians, are accommodated. In actual plans with the NAA, was not there now is even a pedestrian sidewalk along that Kent Avenue realigned road is planned for the White House entrance. In addition to that, the flankers community will be impacted, as you rightly mentioned. One of the plans that we are making for access to the JDF and IMJet Center is the construction of a bridge at the flankers intersection where there's the traffic light. So it's now a three-way intersection, and the discussions with the National Works Agency has been to make that into a four-way intersection. So there will be a bridge constructed to cross the drain and allow for access to the JDF facility and IMJet Center. We know that the flankers community walks across where we are going to take into the airport boundaries. They walk across an area just along the drain and head over to the White House area. So part of our engagement with the flankers community is to see how we can ensure that that activity, if it continues to happen, the two work together, and then there's harmony in terms of what the airport is planning with the expansion and the flankers community accessing the northern side of Montego Bay in that area. So it's part of our plans, and will continue to be part of the consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the MBJ team. Excellent presentation. From the council standpoint and in the planning and disaster management preparation, in our studies we have seen that IDB has worked with us on looking at the location of the airport and its vulnerability, the entire Montego Bay in terms of sea level rise, storm surges, etc. What plans, because we are currently looking at doing a comprehensive plan for Montego Bay in terms of our evacuation and disaster response, and I know you have your plans. So what plans are you having in terms of the expansion and how this will, the disaster mitigation aspect of it?
Thank you. I mentioned briefly the shoreline protection project, but a part of that was to conduct a study as it relates to climate change impact, or the possible impact of sea level and the rising of the sea level, and what if scenarios as it relates to that 25, 50, 100-year return period, and if there was a storm event, what would be the impact of such a storm. Coming out of that was a lot of different mitigation measures to be implemented as part of this development. There is a broader picture of the drainage of the airfield. Some may not know, but the airfield actually, a lot of that was water at some point, and the runway actually was done on built up land. But part of this project will be revetment works, as I mentioned, along the north side, because as you can see the impact on the coastline on that area. And on the western end of the runway, there will be additional works involved or planned to be done as it relates to boulders and other measures to protect the shoreline in that area. It's part of our long-term planning as it relates to drainage and protection of the shoreline to address possible impact of any storm or major event in the future. As it relates to disaster management or disaster preparedness, that's always part of our planning. It's something that we revisit every year. Of course, now that we are in the hurricane season, it's something that we pay very close attention to. And the airport has plans and mitigation measures to deal with issues such as these. And we always participate and work closely with our partners in the community as well as the Jamaica Defense Force and other agencies. If there is an issue, how can we address that to ensure continued operation of the airport? So we plan to continue to work closely with these agencies and with the council on these matters. Thank you.
Chairman, on behalf of all of us, I'm sure you'd like me to thank Dr. Rafael Echovani and his team for taking time out of their busy schedule to be here with us today and making a very informative, educative, and enlightening presentation. It is said that Montego Bay is the fastest growing city in the Caribbean. And with this sort of expansion coming on stream, I'm sure it will certainly enhance our development. The last time I traveled, I was pleasantly surprised, and I could not differentiate the difference between our airport as a developing country and that of a developed country. And it is because of the tremendous work of MBJ. I want to encourage them to continue the work. As a matter of fact, 4.3 million passengers in 2017 and employing 7,500 persons. That's phenomenal. And so you're celebrating your 15th anniversary. So that would make, and you have 15 more years. That would make 30 years. You want some more time? We can give you an additional 15 years. So we are really happy that you could come today and to enlighten us this way. And we appreciate your very good work. Thank you.
Thank you much, Doc, you and your team, and I wish you all the best in carrying out that major and worthwhile investment. Thank you very much. Good. I am told that, Mr. Lee, I'm told that the children from and their teachers from Builders Preparatory School would like to leave us now. Am I right? Teach, thank you very much for being here with us, and we certainly will cherish this moment with you and your kids. Thank you very much. Open the door for them. Mr. Smash, you see why we need somebody to man these doors? You see it? People coming in here and they're just coming in, and we have no courtesy to assist them in getting around the place. They just come and struggling to find them way out. Can't work. As of next month, we have a security at the gate. So people coming in who don't even know who they are. No, we need that. Councillors, We are back on the agenda. Could I have a motion reverting this meeting to? All in favor? Ayes have it. We are on matters arising, and I will know the superintendent. There are a number of issues as it relates to North, South Gully, roads within the parish, rehabilitation program, North Coast Improvement, and Long Hill Road. If you could just give us a report on all those areas. Siop.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, councillors. Good morning, all persons that are in attendance, especially the media, and persons in the gallery. It's a pleasure of mine to give this report to this august body. We are on the South Gully. Go back. If you can just share the view here. This is part of Cyril Gully. This picture was taken yesterday. As you see, it's laden with solid waste, buckles. There's not a lot of siltation in it, but there's a lot of solid waste matter that is in the South Cyril Gully. This is just another section showing you that there is not a lot of silt, but there is a lot of garbage and solid waste matter. Now this is the dome. Now the traps are laden with trash. As you can see, there is the water lilies that are there. Yes, the trash that on the sill, on the traps there next. As you see there, this now is a request from Councillor Vernon that we should have inspected the inspection chambers along the covered area of the South Gully. As you can see in there are accumulated debris, and one of our drain cleaners went in there and took pictures. It is not clogged up, but there's about a foot or so worth of mud, and some areas are hardened, and therefore we would recommend that persons, because equipment cannot get in that area, so we'd have to use manpower to clean these areas. And this was all the traps were lifted and all the way down to the outfall of the South Gully. As I just need to reiterate that this gully falls under the jurisdiction of the NWA, National Works Agency. Okay, that's for the South Gully. The North Gully, however, is a little bit different. We have maintained, we have cleaned the lower section with the past 2 weeks and we remove river shingle and all those things from out of the gully, and the lead men that are down at the bottom here are doing a fair job in cleaning this area. And as I reported, NWA did some cleaning of the traps in the King Street, Upper King Street area, and last month. So it's basically in a fair condition. Do you want me to pause at this point for any discussion regarding the two gullies, or you want me to continue?
I would advise that you just continue and just give your report.
Okay, no problem.
Councillors can make notes as you go along.
Under R55 roads within the parish, under the road maintenance, that's local revenue fund road maintenance for the month of May. The parish council did, under the patching program, sections of Brandon Hill, sections of Green Pond Road, sections of Hurlock, sections of Pimento Drive, section of Farm Heights, section of Catherine Hall Roundabout, and Theodore Whitmore Crescent. We did works around the city of Montego Bay. Some areas we did some patching works. We also did the lower section of Alexander Terrace. We have completed the Alexander Terrace. Under TEF funding, we are about 85% complete on the Johns Hall Main Road project. Oh, sorry. No, but that's in this one. Johns Hall Main Road, we are about 85% complete with the rehabilitation of sections of this roadway, and this is under TEF. And I see the councillor from the Rosa division smiling. I don't know why, but we have also started under TEF the Virgin Valley roadway. We started doing some drain cleaning aspect of this project. We are expected to do 1 kilometer of roadway in the Virgin Valley area, rehabilitation that is. Under CDF, St. James Central, we did rehabilitation work on Mall Road. We are expected to complete works. We start and complete works for Hibiscus Crescent and Nico Avenue, Pleasant View, Vaughansfield to Germantown, and Bamboo Drive in the near future. And that is on the parochial Revenue Fund road maintenance. The NWA sent their report, and I just want to make it known that they reported that Quarry and Blue Hole Road, that is under Major Infrastructure Development Program, will shortly start the rehabilitation work on Quarry and Blue Hole. For matters in the minutes in relation to 974, go back, the next page. Next page, up. Back. Okay, under this project, they reported that 4th Street, Farm Heights is 30% complete. 6th Street, Farm Heights is 30% complete. Bogue Hill, 15% complete. 15. Home Hill to Iron Shore, 95% complete. Point to Garlands, 9% complete. Rosemount Crescent to Rose Heights, 15%. Johnson Hill, 0%. They have not started Johnson Hill yet. Felicity Road, 95% complete. Torado Heights to Flower Hill, 95%. Torado Heights to Flower Hill, 10%. Valencia Drive, 95%. Vernon's Drive, 60%. And Flower Hill Road, 15%. And on the north coast. Yeah, they will put. It's 50% complete. North Coast, on the North Coast improvement, just to say that they have received the approval this week, Monday, for rehabilitation works on the corridor, the elegant corridor. The main area is the area in front of the Half Moon Hotel. They have received approval and funding, and they have started the procurement process, which is to get material for this project. Their intention is to start this weekend, if everything is okay, but if it is not started this weekend, they will start next weekend. That is the uneven surface in that area. And on the Long Hill, Mr. Mayor, they have nothing new to update on that. They're still awaiting approval from the ministry.
Councillors, you have heard the superintendent's presentation as it relates to South Gully, North Gully roads within the parish, road rehabilitation program, North Coast improvement, and the Long Hill Road. Is there any question, comments?
Chairman.
Yes, Councillor.
Just to say, I remind you that Clement Drive in the Montgomery, that was not patching work. It was a complete rehabilitation of that section of the road, not patching.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind myself, I'm asking the SOAP to inquire in respect to the South Gully. When that South Gully was being constructed, it was said that there was a particular machine that would be there for the purpose of cleaning. Having regard to how the construction was done, it wasn't an open drain. Can the superintendent inquire of the National Works Agency? What is the situation with that? Yes. Or to determine if some special equipment exists that can be acquired for the purpose of cleaning, because just looking at what is there, I suppose in another few years from now, because it has served us for quite a while, actually, for it to have gotten to that state that he described, the siltation that has taken place would have been over a very long period of time before it would have gotten to a foot. So as we go along, I suppose another passage of time will cause it to be at 2 feet. If they can determine if there is some method, machinery, or as the case may be, that can make the cleaning process easier than putting manpower, because I just see it being difficult.
It's not.
Yes.
Manpower is not the way.
In respect to the South Gully, and the pictures that were shown with the plastics in that South Gully, comments were made by the president in another place that I sit. And there has been commentary that has been going on in respect to the use of plastics and our improper disposal of the plastics that we use. And I think it is high time that if our citizens will not follow the line, because what you see here, that disposal is obviously creating serious problems that we're going to have to get to this stage very shortly in respect to banning the plastics which may have other implications, etc. But we need to take a different approach. And I must commend the government of Jamaica, because it was announced by the minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation that this administration is providing $75 million over the next 3 years as an incentive to have persons collect the plastics and to put them for the purpose of recycling. And I think that the government must be commended for adopting that approach. Yes, but it is a start. Yes, a lot of money is here. And it provides an economic source for persons who may think that they have nothing to do because collecting, in the past, we used to collect bottles, so I suppose glass bottles that is. And it will provide an economic source too for persons. When I saw the report on the roads though, Mr. Chairman, yes, and it was unfortunate, I didn't have my calculator. Because the figures that I saw being expended by the government in the fixing of road in St. James. Well, it is well, we have been seeing the prosperity in other things, But I'm certain that even Councillor Thomas can say that when he's moving around St. James,
he tried to steal a piece of the show.
He's moving around St. James. The rehabilitation of these roads that have been long outstanding. And when you look at the approach that has been taken, and I want to commend Dr. Harris Chang, Member of Parliament. I'm Member of Parliament. Because when I look, and I want to commend Ed Bartlett too, because... No, just come. But seriously now, Mr. Chairman, seriously now. If you start from 2002, you look on the community of Lilliput, Barretown, up in Glendevon, up in Beverly Hills, you look up in Providence, and I distinctly remember when I said to a previous administration that they were to fix Providence Heights and fix up the roadways that were up there. It was road, it was track and gully. And since 2007, with Dr. Chang and Ed Bartlett being in the positions that they were, the amount of communities that we have seen improvements in, that access to the ordinary man is the easiest thing now. I remember when we went up there in Providence with the editor of the Western Mirror, and when we got to the point of where the ceremony was supposed to have been, he said he didn't even realize that he had reached here because his last recollection of going into that area was on some dirt track and so forth. And when I see this continuation of those works, that is going to contribute to the easier movement around Montego Bay, that will reduce the traffic congestion in the downtown area of Montego Bay, the widening of Felicity Road, the improvement to Home Hill, and the movement, we have it this morning, because we're changing the name. We don't where Joshua is, because I think we're supposed to have a resolution this morning. Because I think it is appropriate that that resolution is brought at this time. But I had to consult Deputy and the teacher to my left to ask them how much money was shown on the board, and I think it's over $300 million that is being expended by this administration for the improvement of roadways, for movement of people and goods and services across the parish of St. James. This administration must be coming. You're not clapping, Councillor Thomas. Yeah. So, I think I just wish to start to give my appreciation to those two gentlemen who sit in higher areas. That when we make the requests and the submissions, that they seek to get them through in a timely fashion, that we are going to see this massive expenditure and improvement to our road surfaces in St. James.
I'm totally in agreement with that comment, Councillor Sinclair. And when you take into consideration the sugar transformation program that is doing a total rehabilitation from Chatsworth through Maroon Town, through Flamstead, through Garlands, which is over 100 million. And when you look at what is taking place in Granville, what JCF is doing up there, another $120 million. And when you look at what Housing Agency of Jamaica is doing up in Copperwood and section of Montpelier, and when you look at what the St. James Municipal Corporation has been spending on roads over the last 6 months, the last time I calculate, we were $700 million and climbing. So I've never seen this level of road rehabilitation taking place in the parish of St. James. And I've been there a long time. Not even when you were elsewhere and doing the old Cook Highway, we had that volume of and I heard that you were in Tucker recently overseeing the Member of Parliament's work. We must commend you for that. Because he decided that he's not going to allow the prosperity to move away from him to make sure that he be in a part of it. But it is a breath of fresh air for St. James. And, you know, we must really extend commendation to the Members of Parliament in St. James for seeing that the road network in this parish, even though it is not where it ought to be, but, you know, a lot of roads are being fixed. And I'm sure you want to give commendation.
Mr. Chairman,
you know, he's on the right side.
I'm sure I can say on the behalf of the residents of St. James that it is good to see that this administration has taken on to carry on the foundation that was laid. To carry on the foundation of the infrastructural project that was laid by the previous administration with Howard Cook, Alison Lemire, the dualization and the Rosal.
Just like Edward Siaga Highway.
Because continued growth, it's continued growth for the parish, Mr. Chairman. And we must commend what foundation was laid as we continue with that progress.
We won't quarrel with you with that. Definitely not. But, Councillor,
thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. In light of the superintendent's report, and in particular that on South Gully, it would be prudent of us to address the matter as soon as possible. Because as we can see and as we have heard earlier, the youngsters, they did a poem and Mobile flood out. And we would be only wise to prevent Mobile flood out part 2. Now, I want to ask the Superintendent of Roads and Works in his capacity to do an estimate in the cleaning of South Gully, so we can send it to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for funding. And we want to send it to them and note it as an emergency, even though SOUP is the one that determines what is an emergency. But yes, very much.
Well, we can send pictures of what he presented to us.
Definitely, definitely. All right. So I hereby move a motion for the Superintendent's Department to do an estimate and send it to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for funding.
Can we have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Will you come?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councillor.
Good morning, everyone. Sir Chairman, sorry that NWA is not here, although they're sending their report. But in South St. James, we are not feeling the prosperity from NWA. And the Mount Peller, Anchovy Mount Peller main road, NWA cut out sections of the road to repair it. And they patch section of it and leave the cutout holes. And motorists, cars are falling in these holes, burst tire, mash up rim, causing accidents. Now, I realize that they do some work recently in the cotton tree area of Mount Carey. We're hearing that the barber green that they should use, as far as the concrete that they should use to fix a pothole, they use it and fix in front of a shop and leave the hole there. Where a car fall in it 2 days later, burst a tire and go over the gully. Now, the quality assurance from NWA in South St. James fall. I cannot say as my colleagues in other areas of St. James, but we need NWA to be held responsible for poor quality of work on our thoroughfares.
Okay, Councillor, thank you for those comments. I think we need to send a letter to the National Work Agency explaining that the situation. Solid waste activities in St. James.
Chairman.
Just a minute.
Deputy Mayor.
Come here, Mr. Robbins. Yes, there's a matter that we need to take before. R55 request